Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we're going to look at some American Jazz Songbook standards, and we're going to look at some of the best practices we can apply when we're learning these great American Songbook tunes. I'm talking about the classic era of American Songbook jazz, rather than contemporary jazz, so to speak. So we're going to look at a couple of tunes, and we're going to look at some different ways to approach your practice with this music, because I often find this music is so melodic, a lot of students get a little bit lost in just thinking about chords and chord theory, and they probably, as a result of it, ignore some of the other musical elements of the piece. So this tutorial is going to address that, and I'm going to show you some practice tips that I came across from the likes of Bill Evans when watching some of his videos when he explains his process. I wish there were more of them out there, because he knew a thing or two about improvising on jazz standards, let's just say that. So, by the way, if you are a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get the free resources kit that accompany these YouTube videos, just to really help your practice. And secondly, you'll get some daily free masterclass tips straight to your inbox. Great way for you to really just build some progress and some narrative into your practice. You know, piano's not an easy thing, so you need some help along the way. So I'm going to use two songs as an example in today's video. We're going to go with the classic Someday My Prince Will Come, which was originally from Snow White, the Disney film, but it's been covered by many, many great players, from Bill Evans to Miles Davis, and the list goes on. These are the types of pieces. There's a lot of pieces like this bit of music. The Nearness of You, there's many, I can think, Misty. There's a whole bunch of pieces of this nature that are just extremely melodic. They have such beautiful melodies. And when we just start thinking about chords, and I'm guilty as charged, I talk about chords a lot, but chords aren't going to help us here. Just by playing chords, and even if you find nice voicings, there's much, much more to this music than just the chords. So I'm almost going to take a non-chord approach to this type of melodic songbook, American Songbook classic approach, because we want to almost take a more melodic approach than just a chordal approach. So, and the great thing is, if we do that, the chords almost work themselves out, and we start actually coming up with more inventive chord voicings. What I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by playing the melody and the bass only. This is such a valuable way to practice. I can't recommend this highly enough. Play just the bass and the melody. Forget the improv, forget the fanciness, forget the chords, forget the temptation to add lots of substitutions. Just get a feel of the structure of the song. Respect the melody a little bit first before going off onto noodling around with it. And that's what we're going to get that foundation. And that's why players like Bill Evans are so amazing, because every reharmonization he makes still somewhat respects the essence of the music. Still, there's a connection to that original theme. It's not just going off on a wing. We're going to really just focus on getting that stylization of the bass and the melody first. So let me try this. I'm just going to play the tune and just the bass. And obviously I decide my bass as according to the chord. So I get this then. So I just ran through that tune just with the bass and the melody. I added some little stylizations to it, little things like that. a little bit of phrasing with the rhythm. I really treated that melody as if I was singing the music, not as if I was just playing the melody transactionally. But I wasn't trying to go out and improvise on the melody. I was still really just trying to focus on the essence of the tune. And then with my bass line, and different editions of the music will be in different keys, we'll use different chords, and that's all a decision you might want to make, is which edition you're playing from and what chords you might be using. But generally, I'm just connecting those chords together through the bass line. And this is a really important skill. Not only a really good skill a great bass player has, it's a really important skill on piano as well, is the way we connect chords together. It's not just chord, 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 chord. It's connecting them, seeing chords not just as a vertical construct, but also as a horizontal construct, a melodic construct. The narrative of one chord connecting to the next. And a great way to study that is to think of the bass line. So I've got my chord pattern here. Then maybe I add some passing notes when I might need to, or when I have an opportunity to do so. So when I was on that C7 in first inversion, then I went to the root C. Now the next chord's an F over an A, but I added that passing note just walking down the scale to get to the A there. I've got the semitones there. I'll do that again. I can walk up to some of those chords as well, or have some semitones. But again, I don't want to do too much. I just want to connect them gently. So let me try all of that again. Now I'm going to do some just very gentle improvisation on the melody. I'm still going to play the tune, but I'll fill in some of those gaps with a bit of occasional improvisation. For improvisation now, if I was to build a solo, I can start just by experimenting with some arpeggiations of the chord. So I'm alluding to the chords through the use of melody and bass and even arpeggiation in that solo in there. But chords aren't my central point of reference. My central point of reference is more so the structure of the piece. And this is a great way to practice these melodic American jazz standards. It really pays off to think of it that way, because you're getting a sense of the structure of the music and the way the narrative occurs in the music. It's not just about extra harmonization tricks. It also gives you a stronger foundation to actually build some chords and harmony in the playing. So I'm going to play this a third way now, and I am going to make it more chordal. But rather than me think too much about chords, I'm going to invent intervals in the right hand that go underneath the melody. I can use intervals that are from the scale. This is in the F major. I can use intervals that are from the chord that I'm playing at the time. I can use just random notes as intervals, and just if I think they sound good, because the structure of the music is helping me here do the work. And if I do use random notes underneath the melody, that could count as a reharmonization potentially. So you can keep a really open mind here. These are the sort of shapes and textures I'm going to use here. But I'm still keeping the melody at the top. Okay, let me add the bass. Now there I was living a little bit on the edge. I wasn't even quite sure what extra note I was going to add. I was really trying to avoid getting too attached to what the chords were in the song, but instead I was thinking of the song like a two-part invention, a bit like a melody and a bass line. And that's really the point of today's video, is that we're treating these classic melodic American standard classic songbook songs as melody and bass line constructions rather than just chordal constructions. That's the big nugget to take away from today. So I'm going to do this with another song, probably a slightly less melodic one. And when I say melodic, that's a very beautiful melody that song has. But this is a more sort of typical melody, but it's a good example. Also, Fly Me to the Moon. And, you know, you can sort of get caught up in the harmonies of that, you know, the circle of fifths harmony. But let's just ditch that idea for the time being. And let's think of it as a melodic bass construction. But the interesting thing is, this is where classical theory can help us a little bit. Now, in classical harmony and counterpoint theory, the first and the third note of the chord is considered enough. You don't need the fifth note. It can be dropped. So that's even the start of the Fly Me to the Moon melody. That's enough to tell us that's an A minor, and that's a D minor. That's a G major, and that's a C major. And the melody and the bass line are sort of taking care of enough of the chord, enough of the cells of the chord to get the chord, without even us having to think of the chord. We can just play the melody and the bass. So let's do the melody and the bass version first. And I can focus on my phrasing with the melody a bit as well. See, I was even caught out there, is I even forgot one or two notes in the melody there at the end. So, yeah, that's a moment for me to practice the tune. Like, do you know the tune? And, you know, this is a song like Fly Me to the Moon. That's what's meant to happen. That's right. But, you know, guilty as charged, us jazz players get us so fussed about harmonies and doing fancy things with the chords, and that's great. That's great. I've nothing against that. Definitely don't have anything against that. It's great. But we can forget about the value of the melody. I hear that a lot in jazz players. They can forget about the value of the tune. So just respect that tune, respect that bass line, and then use that to build your playing. It's a really good discipline to bring into your practice. So here's a little trick we can add to Fly Me to the Moon. We can have a bit of fun with it, and this gives you the chance now to play around with some chords, because I've been telling you to sort of just pull back from thinking too chordally here. But now what we're going to do is, we're not going to think about chords, but we're going to create lots of chords at the same time. And we're going to do that by just getting the tune and just creating a shape. You just create any shape you want, but you know, make it an interesting shape. You don't just want standard triads, maybe a shape like that. And play the whole thing in that shape, maintaining the melody at the top. Cool trick, isn't it? I changed the shape a bit in that second bit. You can be flexible. Again, I'm living on the edge a bit here. Just really, again, using the melody, leveraging the melody rather than the chords, and just harmonizing to the melody. I can use more simple texture like 2-note textures as well. Doesn't always have to be 4 notes. So I might do a bit of both. Doesn't want to get too sludgy, you know. By the way, if you've found today's video helpful, you might really benefit from our 30-day jazz musician program, which is, we have a flash sale on that course at the moment. It's a substantially cheaper rate than normal. So head on over to our website if you want to find out more about that opportunity. If you want some more resources to build your jazz playing up, it's a really useful course. But I hope today gives you a different perspective on how to build up these ballad pieces, these beautiful American Songbook standards. In the comments, maybe tell me some other pieces. This is good. We can help each other as a community here. Put in the comments other pieces of music you think this technique would work well for. And I'll give you a clue. Ballads and melodic songs with really beautiful, detailed melodies, where chords and just overthinking about chords might get in our way. That's going to be my clue to you. So put in the chat, what songs do you think this practice technique would fit with well? And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you very much.